Hello all, and welcome to the video companion for the Talking Time Let's Play of Final Fantasy XIV. I'm McDowell, and this is Tam-Tara Deepcroft, the level 16 dungeon. This one's a little more straightforward than Sastasha Seagrot, with only a few side rooms with a couple of monsters hanging around, but for the most part, this is an A to B to C to D dungeon. I'm joined again by Estelle Shalonia, aka Turtle Does Bite, as a thaumaturge, Eris Skull, aka my husband Simon, as a summoner, and Garelon Sadrices, aka Gare, as Blue Mage yet again. You might notice there's no dedicated healer in this party. That's because, as I alluded to in the Sastasha video, if you queue for a dungeon with 4 party members, then the role requirement is not observed. Same thing with the 8th prior trial, or raid fights, or even 24 alliance raids. If you don't mind spoiling yourself on future content updates I will be covering when we get to post-Stormblood content, then check out the link in the description below for Golden Tots organizing a 24 Scholar run of a 24-player Alliance raid. It's a treat to watch. Enough preamble though. I said this party doesn't have a healer, and that's technically true. Garelon, the Blue Mage, has a buff from a skill called Ethereal Mimicry that lets a Blue Mage emulate one of the primary roles. Healer, tank, or DPS. Our feud company jokingly calls it stealing a soul. Right now, Garelon has taken the healer mimicry, which increases the potency of certain skills to make them viable for healing. Garelon will not be healing, instead opting for a damage shield, which is the orange bar that appears above the bar for HP in the party list. Of the actual healers, Scholar focuses on this type of pre-healing, opting for damage shields over HP regeneration and direct healing. You'll notice I'm commenting less on the dungeon itself, and that's because there isn't a whole lot to write home about. There's some very interesting striking set pieces to a lot of dungeons, though, and Tam-Tara does have that ominous glowing blue-purple orb in the center of the arena. And the dungeon is wrapped around it, so you're always seeing as you progress further and further. The people in here are cultists, calling themselves the Lambs of Dalamud. To elaborate on some of the lore in the world of Hydaelyn, Dalamud was the smaller red moon that orbited the planet. During the events of the 1.x storyline, it was revealed that an officer of the Garlean Empire's army, Nael von Darnus, started Project Meteor with the purpose of drawing Dalamud down from the heavens and crashing it into Eorzea. It's a pretty blatant callback to the events of Final Fantasy VII and the oppressive meteor that hung in the sky for the second half of that game. As the patches came out and the story rolled on, the red moon grew bigger and brighter in Eorzea's sky until, near the end, it was massive and you could even see technology hanging off of it. Sealed inside the moon was an elder primal god, the Dragon King Bahamut. I already explained that it's been 5 years since Archon Luiswa cast his wards to protect Eorzea from the brunt of Bahamut's wrath. Now, it seems this cult is seeking a way to bring about that destruction once again. Each of these orbs needs to be interacted with and is guarded by a cultist, a few summoned imps, and a void-sent demon that appears after the cultist is killed. The only thing to be cognizant of is the facing for the various critters and cultists, and keep the AoEs away from your friends. Here you can see damage shields in action, and while my HP total is not reflected by the shield's protection, the party lists reflect about how much damage I'm taking and about how much I can take. Part of good tanking is knowing your healer's capabilities. For example, if I'm partied with a white mage, I can expect a lot of quick bursts of healing as well as healing over time. I know that in later content they have a skill that will heal a target completely to full HP on a long cooldown, and an AoE spell that will cause stuns to any enemy hit by it, subject to stun immunity. Knowing this, I can plan to use my defensive cooldowns in conjunction with the healer's toolkit. None of this is happening here because Garelon is insane and is just spackling over the damage Satsensui is taking with damage shields. Eris will supplement this on occasion with Physic, a weak healing spell that Arcanists. Another cultist's orb, another mini boss fight. This time with +1 imp. Plus, all those cultists back there that can't step to Satsensui's magically enhanced swagger. The loot in Sastasha, Tam-Tara, Deepcroft, and the next dungeon are all the same grade and is on par with the brand new gear that you get from Hall of the Novice, so it's a great opportunity to fill some holes with gear that you may not have upgraded yet. But if you have all the brand new pieces, you're pretty much set for these first 3 dungeons. Two orbs down, 2 to go. The way you're seeing me pull here is similar to how you'll see expert players pull, grabbing as many enemies as they think they can handle, trusting the healer to keep them alive, using mitigation carefully, and avoiding AoEs. One thing that you'll run into in a lot of dungeons is a problem where you'll have ranged attackers such as the casters here in this area that are throwing thunder. Part of good tanking is being able to group up enemies and shifting around such that you can get the melee around the melee enemies around the ranged casters. Will give you a hefty advantage, especially when the AoE comes to town, and they're able to open up very effectively against groups of enemies. Getting to level 22 in this dungeon grants the roll action for tanks Reprisal. This causes the target enemy and all enemies nearby to deal less damage for a short amount of time. This can be used as further damage mitigation for these insane pulls, supplemented by Garlon's shields and Ares' physic. Such as the insane pull that you are about to witness right now. By popping Sprint, I am able to mitigate damage even further by just being out of range of the enemy's auto attacks. So the fewer auto attacks I'm taking, the more I'm able to gather enemies up. The other players are able to add to the damage before we actually get to the final area, which is right here, where I will stop and start AoEing like my life depends on it. We need to snag that rosary that Estelle is about to grab in order to open the area where the last 2 orbs are. I imagine this is a stopgap measure to prevent the insane pulling of enemies. Here we have one more cultist, a few more void scent, and a bunch more imps. Once the cultist goes down, that's when the void scent gets summoned, and you can just burn him down pretty easily as long as you face him away from the party to bait those cones out. Going back to the Final Fantasy I illusions, after beating Captain Bike's crew of pirates in Provoca, the Warriors of Light headed across the sea to Elfheim and found that country's prince in a magical sleep. They were sent to retrieve a crown from a cavern by an elven king in a ruined castle. This crown was deep in a cavern and was guarded by... a Mind Flayer. Or more than one Mind Flayer, depending on how unlucky you were with RNG in that game. Anyway, this is Galvanth the Dominator. Galvanth's gimmick is that he calls ads throughout the fight. Some of these ads, the aptly named Inconspicuous Imps, cast a tether chain that makes him completely immune to all damage. In order to make him vulnerable, the DPS need to stop damaging Galvanth and take out these ads. And meanwhile, he's attacking and calling other ads to harass the DPS and healer. As the tank, you should grab these enemies with your AoE attack and let the DPS burn them down in their own time once the imps are dealt with. Occasionally, Galvanth will cast Mind Blast. This is uninterruptible and needs to be avoided or you'll eat a stun. That's just inconvenient and embarrassing. As long as the DPS takes out those inconspicuous imps quickly, the tank keeps the other ads off the rest of the party, the healer keeps everyone alive, you'll prevail. All in all, Tam-Tara Deepcroft is a pretty quick and breezy dungeon. That'll do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to check out the full LP in the description below, and may you ever walk in the light of the crystal.